This was one of the worst friendly fire incidents in U.S. military history, Operation Cottage. In 1942, in the middle of World War II, the Japanese invaded the two islands Attu and Kiska in the Aleutian Chain in Alaska. And this was a big deal because it was the first time since the War of 1812 that any American territory had been held by a foreign force. And this was absolutely unacceptable for two main reasons. The first being that if the Japanese obtained a foothold in the Americas, they would have a forward operating base from which they could expand their Pacific Empire. And the second being that America doesn't get invaded. America is the one who knocks. So we had to kick them out to maintain our international street cred. America's first response was to send in B-24s to harass Kiska's harbor and take out as many of the Japanese ships as possible. And then Rear Admiral Thomas Kinkaid imposed a naval blockade, which forced Japan to rely on submarines in order to provide their troops with supplies. America assembled a force of 35,000 men from their 7th Army Division and the Canadian 13th Infantry Brigade, and they launched a ground assault on Attu, which lasted for 19 brutal, bloody days. After that, the Japanese were forced out and they retreated to Kiska. The Allies then spent the month of July dumping a cumulative 754 tons of ordnance on Kiska, as well as propaganda leaflets informing the Japanese that their situation was hopeless, and urging them to save themselves by retreating. Finally, on August 15th, the Allies launched a ground invasion of Kiska in Operation Cottage. Their landing was unopposed, and they advanced, cautious that the Japanese were probably hidden in fortified positions on the hillside. As night fell over Kiska, a thick fog settled in as the Allies began to search the Japanese tunnels. Suddenly, shots rang out, tracers ripped through the darkness, and soldiers began to fall from sniper fire and machine guns. As morning broke and daylight once more illuminated the thick fog, artillery fire began to rain down as the Allied ships bombarded the island. Finally, the entire island was cleared, but not a single Japanese soldier had been found. As it turned out, they had evacuated 2 weeks prior, loading all of their soldiers onto submarines and slipping undetected through the naval blockade. It later came out that American reconnaissance had noticed the decline and eventual cessation of Japanese radio activity, but given his knowledge of the Bushido Warrior Code, which strongly discourages retreat, Thomas Kinkaid had considered a Japanese retreat to be an impossibility, something entirely out of the question. All of the propaganda leaflets had been meant to demoralize the Japanese, but Thomas Kinkaid had never expected them to work. He considered the radio silence to be a trap, and he ordered his men to be on high alert for hidden Japanese. All of the sniper fire and machine guns on Kiska, they had been allied. All of the casualties were friendly fire. In the end, after 2 days, 92 Allied soldiers lay dead, with over 200 more wounded. While Operation Cottage was a success on paper, the cost was high, and it was paid in the blood of Americans and Canadians who never saw the enemy, because they weren't even there.